Now,
Uh,
some feedback from our friends that listened and watched last week. Kevin James Montana, 29. Um, a pretty touching outreach. He says, Kev, my son has autism. He's 12 years old and going on 13. He loves this podcast. He's very high functioning. When T passed, he cried. You guys make my Monday morning. You guys make a lot of people's Mondays. Shout outs from Baltimore, Maryland, Big Dog.
thanks, man. And tell your son thank you.
Yeah, shout out to your son if you're listening, buddy. That's a brave that's a brave thing. You know, I gotta say for a minute, like there's a series on Netflix, Love on the Spectrum, and it follows people with autism dating, like in various parts of the spectrum, different types, from Asperger's up to whatever. And at first glance, you'd think that that's on there for comedy, right? This is people poking fun, but the hidden part, if that was the agenda, maybe it wasn't, but the hidden part of that, though, is there's so much talk today about, I mean, autism is just one that I'm using, but our differences. And it allows safety for someone like James to talk about, he's got his first and last name there. He's talking about his son, and maybe other people listen. His son listens. The bravery to be, it's okay. You can talk about this now.
Well, I mean, to me, if you have an autistic child, they're it's it's not like they're off from a leper colony. Like there's so many people that I would tell about my son's autistic. They'd be like, "No, I've met your son before." I said, "Nah, it doesn't. It's not like fucking polio or something." I said, he's autistic. I said he's just on the spectrum.
But I mean, for the kid, for the parents share obviously, but for a kid to talk about it, to understand it as best
Well,
they
they
could.
understand it because they're them. They know,
Mm-hmm.
especially if he's highly functioning.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I'm making an assumption that I don't know if I'd know that there were differences in how I am versus how someone else feels. I don't know how someone else feels, so I don't
I
know.
think that
20 years ago.
there's so many people that I've spent time with in my life, um, whether it be just short periods or long periods, and then to later find out that they were diagnosed autistic and say, "Fuck yeah, I can definitely see that."
Mm. When you were a
I
kid.
have a friend of
Mm-hmm.
mine that their son's autistic, and he just hasn't been diagnosed yet. And
Mm.
I do everything I can every time I see him to try to tell him like your son's autistic.
Well, this is interesting. And okay, so what does that conversation go like?
Like if your kid's 11 and he doesn't read, there's something going on.
Doesn't read or can't read.
You don't know because I mean I don't know. I just know he can't like if I sign something to him, he can't read it or he won't read it. But I don't think he can read it.
Mm.
So that's. And I explained to him last time I saw him. I said when I was a kid, I said, people. I said the education system was very cruel. I said, so you were when did your fun with Dick and Jane fucking books. You know, you'd have the Jets who were the fast readers. You'd have the trains. You'd have the cars, and you'd have the turtles. And I'd be in the turtles because I had a hard time reading. It wasn't until fucking 11th grade that I realized that I was fucking dyslexic.
And no one identified it in your
Not
school.
that fucking school systems
Yeah.
back then. They put you in remedial reading.
Yeah, right.
You know. Then
He's
what do you?
slow.
Yeah. So what do? You go take shop classes. You say, fuck this. I'll go take fucking woodworking. I'll do welding. I'll just get my degree because all I'm going to do anyway is go work in a steel mill or a fucking car plant. Then all of a sudden you grow to 6'10" and a bunch of colleges want to give you a fucking scholarship. And you go, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I
How did?
love, I
Mhm.
love, I love, I love when I read people that they talk about my career and they say, you know, if you weren't 6'10", you wouldn't have had the success you had. I said, you know what? If I was 6'10" and blind, I wouldn't have had the success I had. Like, you can take if you were 6'10" and had one fucking leg, if you were like, hey motherfucker, what about the
A lot of
fact
factors.
of I am 6'10"? And at the same time, I was fucking on the road. I was on the road a lot. Not as like I was, when I was with the WWE, but you know, we were still on the road. Scott and I were probably on the road, let's say 185 days a year.
I get that. And he wouldn't have had a lot of what he did have. Your family wouldn't have had a lot of what they had you not done that. And as he got older, he understood that, obviously. As a
Oh
nine,
no,
10 year
he
old, you just
yeah,
want your dad
no,
home. But
he understood as we got older. Because I always hustled. I never
yeah,
stopped hustling.
well, let yourself off the hook a little. He was bright, he was loved,
Yeah, no,
and he
I
was a great
guess
person.
it's
And that
just
doesn't
that
happen without
I'm get
parents.
like June 12th will be his 29th birthday. Yeah, it would have been his 29th birthday. So, and I look back at like Jim Morrison who died at 20, like all the people that 27 club,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like my son didn't make it to that. My son made it to 26, you know, and I'm just like fuck, man. But at the same time, because of his autism and because of a lot of things that he was a homebody. He spent a lot of time at home.
Mm-hmm.
So there's studies that have been done that you like once your child turns 18, you spend like 2 years of actual time with your kid after that.
Oh, God. Wow.
Once they're 18, like you spend 2 years of your life with them, and we spent 26 years with my son. So we got those 2 years plus six. So I mean,
That's.
I'm blessed to have him as my son at all, but just you know, my wife and I both felt we were, and then just I went over it a million times, but just to be there, to know he wasn't in any pain, to know he wasn't scared, to know he wasn't, you know, and to watch him go, that it was, and I think he did that for us because I mean, I see these parents, man, that still don't have their child 10 years later, or still don't know what happened to them, and I mean, that agony is just, I just, because it's hard enough to know, you know, paint by numbers what happened to your kid, because in the end, that monitor flatlines, it's just, whew, doesn't make fucking the playoffs or Raw or fucking Trump's tariffs or any of that shit mean fucking nothing. And I'm starting on a daily basis to try to take 2 hours a day where I don't do like I cut my social media way down.
Mm-hmm.
I just fucking don't fuck with it. And even though I'm doing more appearances this year than I have, um, I I'm doing it to because I got out of the habit of doing it, and I got out of the habit of fucking traveling. And if something ever happened where I had to bust my ass again, like you don't want to be completely out of fucking fighting shape,
Yeah.
you know? Like you want to
Yeah.
still be able to fucking, to grind a little bit if you have to. So this year I'm doing a little bit more than normal, but like Tamara and I said the other day, we took the Cadillac out and we took a drive, and it was just kind of like I don't know, it was just kind of chill. No music on, just talking and just driving.
Mm-hmm. Grounding yourself a little,
Yeah,
connect.